Hello and welcome again to my channel Jayla Bamba. This is Jamila Orior, and I am up and back again to talk to you some more about the science and culture behind psychotropic drugs to its author, Richard Miller. And in the previous post, I talked to you about the rise of the field of modern psychiatry as it is as we know it now, and how psychiatric uh, treatment included in its approach to mental health disorders, pharmacology, and psychotropics. Uh, we also talked about how monoamine oxidase inhibitors came to the world and how they were chasing anti-tubercular. It's always the same thing. They were chasing something and then they stumble on something and then, you know, thanks God, thanks Lord to the benefits of all other people. So and that helps scientific investigation goes more and more. So they found out iperonizid, and iperonizid was also, although it worked as an anti-tubercular, it also helped alleviate the depression symptoms in most of those people who were treated of tuberculosis. And some of these people approached Nathan Klein, psychiatrist, famous psychiatrist, one of the pioneers in the field of modern psychiatry in the United States, who was awarded the Lasker Prize twice, which is an equivalent of the Nobel Prize. And they also understood the function of the enzyme monoamine oxidase and then how it works by inhibiting the function. Monoamine oxidase inhibitors work by inhibiting the function of monoamine oxidase, but that caused a lot very bad side effects, and that side effect was very deadly and causes a rise in the hypertension of people who take that, if they take it concomitantly with lots of cheese, ingesting lots of cheese. So, which is rich in tyramine. Tyramine is an amine, and all biogenic amines, serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, epinephrine, get stored in the vesicular nerve terminals. And then if there's so much of these, then tyramine, and then those compete about the vesicular storage, and then they get pushed out, displaced, and that's how hypertension happens, because some of these, especially norepinephrine, is a strong vasoconstrictor, and that kind of hypertension can cause ischemic, cerebral accidents, and or cardiac arrest, etc. So the monoamine oxidase back then got withdrawn, but then they were put back on the market after they understood how they work, and patients started to be advised to reduce the intake of cheese or stay away from it altogether. Then as they found out about that very deadly side effect, they started chasing another one, and that's how the TCAs happened while they were chasing an anti-histaminergic. That's they found imipramine, and then imipramine was tested and was found to be a good antidepressant, but TCAs, tricyclic antidepressants, also came with their very worrisome side effects, especially arrhythmias, which can give people cardiac arrest and other GI symptoms, dry mouth, etc. So they started to look for something else, and that's around 1971. That's when they found out that some patients who died of suicide, who were depressed and committed suicide and died, they showed low levels of 5-HIAA, which is 5-hydroxyindoloacetic acid. and it is a byproduct of serotonin. If there is high level of it, that means there is high levels. There are high levels of serotonin in the body. If there is a low level, that means there are low levels of serotonin. And they said, okay, that's it. We need something to find something that would potentiate and prolong the action of mediated neurotransmission. And that's how I pronounce it. That's how Prozac happens. So Prozac, the $1 billion baby, is the section I am going to talk about here. And if you are familiar with psychotropics and who is not in this world, and all the people actually who are interested or dealt with people with mental disorders, or for any other some other disorders also, know about Prozac the same way they know about insulin. It is also among the most essential medications on the list of WHO, the World Health Organizations, for the treatment of depression in adolescents and adults. If you remember, Eli Lilly started the first company in the United States that developed a research department in its within its company, and then it continued its interaction and contact with university research departments, and they started an award to whomever presented something very, very valuable to the field of pharmacology. And there was 1971, Solomon Snyder was a winner of the award that Eli Lilly gives, and he delivered a lecture on the use of synaptosomes, if you remember. We talked about that previously. If you don't, just go back to the previous post. And in examining the action of TCAs, chemists at Eli Lilly and Co. initiated a research using the synaptosome assays to test for a new compound that could block the biogenic amines reuptake systems. They believed diphenhydramine, Benadryl, an antihistamine, could also play a role in biogenic amine reuptake blockade. Analogs were synthesized, such as phenylpropylamine derivative lisoxetine, more effective as a norepinephrine uptake blocker, but less so as a 5-hydroxytryptamine as a serotonin blocker. So in 1971, they added a few compounds to the phenoxyl ring of trifluomethyl group in the para position. The yield was a compound that highly selectively blocks 5-hydroxytryptamine reuptake, but less selective for norepinephrine. So the N-demethylated derivative of this compound had the same action. They became known as fluoxetine and norofloxetine. So tested on animals, they selectively blocked serotonin reuptake. In 1973, further tests were run by scientists involved in the development of fluoxetine. Toxicology showed some worrisome side effects. Those side effects were considered later as not very alarming. In 1976, the INDA, the Investigational New Drug Application, was presented to the FDA and required trials. So tests on humans showed fluoxetine was well tolerated and blocked 5-hydroxytryptamine in platelets, as these also synthesize 5-hydroxytryptamine transporter proteins. So the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, required the involvement of psychiatrists and experts in the field of psychopharmacology. They told them, okay, we understand that this is a good achievement, but we want people who are experts in the field of psychotropics, in the field of psychiatry, to be involved in the research. 3 years later, that's why it got delayed. 3 years later, before it was declared that SSRI, serotonin selective reuptake inhibitors, were efficient in treating major depression. So side effects similar to TCS, they also cause drowsiness and sedation. In addition to the other side effect, they cause drowsiness and sedation. Other SSRIs were developed, such as zimelandine, marketed by Astra, but had to be withdrawn because of its flu-like symptoms. The FDA had to make fluoxetine to make sure that fluoxetine is different. It did not approve it until December 1987, and it was sold by Eli Lilly as Prozac. Now, the rise of what we're going to see in the next section, the SSRI phenomena. Eli Lilly secured Prozac, and it became another blockbuster of their company, as the author likes to bring in blockbuster whenever there is a huge achievement in the field of psychiatry, that he itemized quite accurately possible. It was cleverly marketed and sold as better than its predecessors, monoamine oxidase inhibitors and TCAs. It got the company its first $1 billion in annual income in 1992. In 2002, 4 million people were prescribed Prozac on sales, and sales reached $22 billion in annual income. Other SSRIs came to the market of pharmacology, such as sertraline, Zoloft, paroxetine, Paxil, escitalopram, Lizapro, and probably others that I don't know about and the author did not mention. What is the secret ingredient for SSRI success? Cleverly marketed? Possible. What is that? Well, psychiatrists prescribed them for a variety of disorders believed to work in the same way depression did, such as anxiety disorders. So they prescribed them as antidepressant and anxiolytics. They prescribed them for PTSD disorder, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. They prescribed them for obsessive compulsive disorder, for panic disorders, for eating disorders, and other anxiety disorders used to be treated by benzos. And we'll talk about, the author is going to talk about benzodiazepines later in the book. Now, Prozac has become to become so disseminated in societal collective consciousness that almost all literature erupted. Opinions were divided between glorification and suspicion. It was even given to restless pets. You know, if your pet feels like kind of restless, is probably having some restless syndrome or something. So it was prescribed to pets and was fed to clams to enhance their pearl productivity. Hence the expression "happy as a clam." So as happy as a clam, and the author tossed in quite a few jokes, but we are going to be satisfied with this one. It was also it was given to restless pets. We talked about. It was also accused of water contamination. Those are the other ones that are suspected. They said you are contaminated our waters, and they said it's a hoax. It's marketed by a cabal of drug companies and corrupt medical professionals. Do they actually increase suicidality in patients, which was a side effect that was talked about? Well, pharmaceutical companies responded no more than other medications that have been prescribed for example, for epilepsy, and then such as anticonvulsants. As common sense dictates, when prescribing meds, one should weigh the benefits and the outcomes, and the drawbacks and the risks. Now, let's move to the next section. SSRIs became SNRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors became serotonin norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors. Now let's see why. TCAs, tricyclic antidepressant, as has been introduced, blocked the uptake of norepinephrine, and they also blocked serotonin. While SSRIs were being developed, while they were being developed, other antidepressants that did not primarily block serotonin were sold, such as bupropion, Wellbutrin, that's also said to be prescribed for patients who want to quit smoking, or it helps with quitting smoking. It's commonly used as antidepressant. The mechanism how it worked was not quite understood. Norepinephrine uptake might have been involved. They just suspected that, but there were no studies or tests to validate their thinking. So they thought it was it. They are not TCAs. They have their own chemical structures and may affect norepinephrine and serotonin differently. So they brought into the game of pharmacology norepinephrine reuptake inhibition. Most antidepressant now are SNRIs. They are not TCAs. They have their own chemical structures, may affect norepinephrine and 5-hydroxytryptamine, serotonin differently. They affect them in different ways. Some SNRIs, serotonin norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors, use has been extended to the treatment of different disorders, such as duloxetine, Cymbalta, with the approval of the FDA, which been prescribed, which is prescribed for fibromyalgia, for example. Antidepressants take up to 4 weeks to manifest the effects. You take them, they affect the biogenic amines, but the effect, affecting the condition of depression itself doesn't take effect until like more than 2 weeks, up to 4 weeks. So their effects on biogenic amines is immediate, as I said. To quote the author, there is no direct one-to-one correlation between the degree of monoaminergic synaptic activity in the brain and the mood. So they fill in whatever they needed to fill. The balance is restored, but the mood is not restored to its normalcy right away. So unlike schizophrenia, animal models for depression showed no gene for the disorder. In animals, learned helplessness, a succession of small negative stimuli that lead the animal to giving up, the learned helplessness in animals responded favorably to antidepressants. When they wanted to measure those medication effects, they couldn't see is the dog, for example, depressed, is the cat depressed, or is my mouse depressed. So they just wanted to test them, so they gave them something, a stimulus. For example, they give them a piece of cheese, and then each time they wanna get to that piece of cheese, they get zapped, and then it happens so many times they give up. That's called learned helplessness. But when they gave them the medication, it's kind of like invigorated them a little bit. It gave them that motive, that. So, and that's how they said how it works on them. Some SNRI's use has been extended to the treatment of different disorders. Yes, we talked about that. So we were not like, there is no genetic modality, we cannot, they couldn't prove that there is some genetic, some gene for depression. No. So now genetic manipulation of specific genetic makeup of neuronal pathways and molecules in animals allowed more insight into the working of depression. Now they manipulated, they said, according to the book, and I have no way to validate that. It's what the book is saying, and it seems like it's a well-researched one. Genetic manipulation of specific genetic makeup of neuronal pathways and molecules in the animals allowed more insight into the working of depression. We'll understand why. To date, no major genetic theory, as we have seen, has been adopted by modern psychiatry. Animal models have shown anatomical areas involved in depression, localized in the limbic system, amygdala, the cingulus cortex, and hippocampus. And if you have studied, again, biology or anatomy, you know that amygdala is known, it's like the emotion center. So in humans, electric stimulation of the cingulus cortex showed improvement in symptoms. They started using that. They just stimulated they use some electric stimulation, and it says it improves the symptom. Another empirical therapy involved insertion of genes. Now I put a question mark on that. In the prefrontal cortex in mice, the genes optimized optogenic therapy, neuronal stimulation by light, shining lights on such nerve cells prove to reverse depression in mice. So they inserted certain genes. Those genes respond favorably to light, and when they shine light on them, the symptoms improve in mice. Now, did they do that in human? We'll see. Biogenic amines also innervated such limbic areas which reinforces further the norepinephrine and 5-hydroxytryptamine. 5-hydroxytryptamine is same as serotonin. You see, it is serotonin in modeling mood. The gap between the physiological effects and antidepressants on these biogenic amines and the effects on mood remains a mystery. They still haven't dissected quite why there is that gap of how it works on the biogenic amines, but doesn't work right away on the mood. But I think they did. There is, in a way, they did. Now we'll see. The author attributes such a gap to synaptic plasticity, which requires long-term state. This is the explanation. So the synaptic plasticity requires long-term changes. Immediate increase in biogenic amines, which happens gradually to changes in the brain, cytokines, and growth factor expression in the brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, can act as antidepressant. Long-term stress leads to depression and affect BDNF. If there is a long-term stress and long-term depression, it affects this brain-derived neurotrophic neurotrophic factor, and then it affects brain plasticity. There are no direct connection between BDNF protein and depression, but it controls long-term synaptic changes. If there's like it's gradual, like it's insidious. It doesn't happen right away. It's gradual, little by little. If you keep poking at something little by little, you deplete it, and you create some kinds of holes, but if you fill it, also when you want to fill it, you fill it little by little, so to restore the normal physiology and anatomy effect. So recent studies support brain plasticity in certain areas of the brain that harbor residual of neuronal stem cells. They said we still have neuronal stem cells. NSC, stress-related hormones, reduce neuron production in those areas. Antidepressants affects BDNF protein, which is believed to have a role in neurogenesis. So recent research has also found out that low level of glutamate receptor blocker, ketamine, acts as a rapid antidepressant. So ketamine we have also a synthetic one. There's the biogenic one, there's the one that's there, and there's so Eli Lilly company has been the most successful drug in introducing, has been the most successful drug company in introducing and marketing antidepressants since 1970s. Now there are no new lines of psychotropic that can act differently than the one we have already seen. Research is still going on, and the book also said that research has become very expensive, but that's what it is. And then the next chapter, which is Dr. Snyder's cabinet, we'll be talking about opium, the flower itself, the opium poppy. We'll talk about laudanum. We'll talk about opiate development. We'll talk about their use in different recreation therapeutic use. They started initially in therapy, and then also in recreational use, and we'll continue talking about that. I'll divide it into a few sections, and I'll try to be brief and leave you on this note, and see you next time. Thank you for following. Thank you for watching, and please support me, subscribe, and invite me to your channels, and then let's exchange what we have. And bye-bye, and have a nice breezy afternoon. You need it. It's very hot out there. Thank you.